What is up, guys? Seth with Big Rock Trees, back again with another vlog video for this week. And this week we are going to be breaking down our new plan that we got from Jeff Sturgis from Whitetail Habitat Solutions. Now, if you haven't heard of Jeff Sturgis yet, you must be living underneath a rock, because this guy knows everything to do with habitat for whitetails. We were lucky enough to have him out this past fall, and he came in and drew up a awesome diagram of our property and broke down what we needed to do to keep deer on our property during the day and to create enough food and bedding areas to supply a lot of deer. So this is one you do not want to miss. Alrighty, so this left part here, we're going to break down a couple of the major symbols and kind of what is mapped out here. So this dark yellow lines here is our silky willow hedge in combination with hybrid willows for a double staggered row. Right here is going to be our entryway into the woods and into our blind that we have up here. So this yellow mark here surrounds our food plots and our bedding areas. And then in these areas here where it's speckled in yellow is switchgrass pockets. And then within those switchgrass pockets, in those other areas here, will be a red osier, hybrid poplar, hybrid willow, and dappled willow areas, because that will be where the deer actually bed. And the reason why those are bedding areas and not actually in the switchgrass is because deer need browse where they bed. So in combination with the switchgrass, we use our cuttings to create browse and bedding areas because they are linked together. So here in the green here is our food plots. They're roughly 5 acres combined. In a quarter of every one of these food plots is brassica, and they run vertical here along the edge. So that will be a brassica blend. And then in the other quarter of it will be a sweet pea, winter rye, and oat mix. And so now we have greens, then we have the brassica, and then in the other half of those 3 food plots will be corn. And so the combination of all 3 allows for great forage from the start of September all the way through the season and even into February and March. And so every one of these food plots here is the exact same ratio from greens to corn, because we want everything to mature at the exact same time, that we don't get the deer's pattern confused. Because if you have one plot here of just corn and that matures later on, the deer won't use this plot until that corn matures, so they will not have a consistent pattern of movement. So by having these all the same, that is going to create a consistent pattern of deer movement throughout this area here. And then up in here, this is right where we created that hinge cut area. We will also add a couple more when it warms up here again. And so we'll create doe bedding here, 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 and here to allow all of this area to be buck bedding. Because that's essentially what we want to create, is buck bedding areas where there's not a lot of doe activity, because that's where bucks want to bed, is out of the way of all those does and young bucks. So like I said, so our blind location is here to hunt over these bedding areas and this giant food plot. And then we also have a quad pod with our earth blind up here, which we can access through our driveway, because all of these food plots will be surrounded by that hedge. And then you'll be able to access it through this backside, and then have a licking branch right here to create that main attraction to get that deer movement coming through here on their way to their bedding areas. So by surrounding this by silky willow hedge and having consistent food there and having bedding close by, these deer will want to access this before dark. And that is our main goal, is to get the deer here during the day, and then once they hit all of these food plots, then they can go off into the ag fields that are nearby. And the reason why we wanted a tight hedge here by the silky willow and hybrid willow is because we don't want deer going over the road into the neighbors here. We want to cut off access and to keep the deer cycling back through. We do not want the deer to cross over here, which they do currently because there is no hedge. So this spring we're going to be planting our hedges to stop and prevent those deer from going over to the neighbors' properties. So then our access points will be here to get into some stand locations. The blue is licking branch, watering hole spots, possibilities, and trail cameras. And so we created a border around our property free of any trees, and then we will seed that out with just some basic grass so that the weeds stay down, so that's easily accessible to all these tree stands, because we want to work around our property so we do not disturb any of these bedding areas and food plot areas, so we're not spooking deer off. So then moving to the right here, this area that is a lighter orange is actually decent bedding area right now. And in these areas we will do select hinge cuts areas because there is decent bedding as it stands right now. In the lighter orange here, we have poor bedding, a lot of hardwoods, a lot of junk timber that we need to knock down and drop the canopy. And then by planting our hybrid willow and hybrid poplar in those areas, we are really going to increase the browse. And then in this area here, we are going to put a watering hole and a licking branch, and then have a stand roughly 30-35 yards away. By creating this watering hole is a big attraction on their way to bedding areas, so it'll be a stopping point. So it's great to have a stand at every one of these watering holes in licking branch areas. In these small green plots here are kill plots. The kill plots will consist of just greens, no corn, and so they will have the brassica blend and then the green blend, which was the winter rye, wheat and oats and sweet peas. In every one of these kill plots we want to have a stand nearby to be able to hunt from, because they are our kill plots. So they are small little plots that aren't destination plots. So deer are cruising through, stopping, eating, hitting a watering hole on their way to their destination plots, which is our major food plots out here. So they should hit these kill plots 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on their way to these major destination food plots, which they will hit right before dark. So these are great spots to have a watering hole, your camera, licking branch. Every stand location besides this one will have a licking branch by, because we need to have an attraction and a reason to sit in this spot. So there will be a licking branch here on this little food plot back here. There's a licking branch here that we had this year that we had great pictures, great use of. It took about 2 weeks, and there is does and fawns and young bucks and mature bucks hitting that licking branch within 2 weeks. So that was pretty amazing to see on our cameras. And so like I said, in these areas right here, we are going to be doing some major hinge cutting, because we need to drop that canopy, because it is just no bedding whatsoever in these areas. There's still not enough lower cover to make them want to bed year round. So like right now they are struggling in that area to find any bedding spots because there is no forbs and forages lower to the ground. And so the house is here. We have great access point possibilities for tree stands here. And then in this area where we knocked down all those little trees to create a barrier between here, this movement by the deer, and then it gives us great access to enter behind those knockdown trees. In some areas we will actually add a silky willow hedge if we can get light to the ground, because in some of those areas where we just had to brush mow and there wasn't any big trees to create kind of that natural hedge, we will actually add a silky willow hedge to give us some access points to be hidden behind, so that we don't spook deer walking in and out of those tree stands. So I made a quick list here of kind of our progression as the season is approaching. And so the first thing that we are going to get accomplished is hinge cutting in all of these areas here. Once it kind of warms up, sap starts flowing, we're able to knock down those trees, drop that canopy. The next thing here, once the snow is all melted and we get exposed ground, we're going to be planting our switchgrass, and then in these pockets here, we're going to be planting switchgrass up in here, and then up in this little area here, and then there will also be another switchgrass spot right here. So we want to be able to frost seed once that snow is melted to get good ground contact. Even if the snow is melted, you're still going to get those nights where it is below zero in a lot of areas. So that's still going to help that seed stratify and allow it to get high quality germination rate. So once it starts warming up here, we're going to be planting our silky willow, hybrid willow hedges around our bedding areas and our food plot areas here. It's going to be 2 double staggered rows, one of hybrid willow and then one of silky willow, to really create that good hedge. And then next, inside these areas here and inside any of these bedding areas, we're going to be planting our red osier dogwood, dappled willow, hybrid willow, and hybrid poplar in those areas, especially within the switchgrass areas, because the deer aren't going to want to bed in just switchgrass. They need browse in those areas. So in between that switchgrass, we are going to be planting those cuttings to increase the browse. Then we'll be installing our watering holes and licking branches. A watering hole will be going up here, and then probably in this spot here, but licking branch wise, we will be having a licking branch here, and then in this food plot area here, by this watering hole up here, and then a licking branch down here by this blind. Every licking branch we want to have a tree stand, because deer are going to be constantly moving and hitting that, because that is a good destination spot and a reason that they need to keep this movement here, because of the licking branch and then having the food plots and bedding area combination. So then we'll probably get our corn planted here, probably late June is kind of what we did last year, and it seemed to work out, and it timed up pretty well with the season. And then our food plots, our other half will be the brassica and the oats and sweet pea mix, and those will be planted late July and into August, so that they mature into October, so that they don't mature too early, because we don't want the deer to mow it down to dirt before the season even gets here. And then finally, we're going to be installing our tree stands here and cutting any shooting lanes so that we can get in early, get these all created so we don't have a lot of disturbance in the woods right before the season. Then hopefully everything will be planted and hopefully we have a great hunt. Thanks for watching this video this week. This week we do have a lucky winner and the drawing here for 25 free cuttings. All you had to do was send in pictures, say where you're from and how you planted them and where you planted them. All right, so here we go. David Winchell. All right, David, congratulations on your 25 free cuttings. I will be sending out an email to you directly. So in this video, I wanted to just make it clear the steps we are going to take to accomplish all of these great improvements to our property. Now, I know this video was a long one, but I hope you guys learned something today and kind of saw firsthand the improvements that we are going to be doing and the steps that we're going to take in order to accomplish the perfect whitetail habitat, which will then lead us into the fall, where hopefully we have a really successful hunt this year. I'm super excited to get that plan and then to institute it into our property this year. And so if you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave us a comment in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, we would really appreciate if you subscribed and liked this video. And just wanted to say thank you again for watching our video, and we will see you next week.